Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple.
In our previous video, we examined how Xavi's tactics dominated possession and how Ten Hag's intelligent pressing made the difference in this fascinating 2-2 draw in the Europa League. But United did create more XG overall, and Barcelona also used an interesting pressing system. So what exactly was United's on-the-ball structure, and how did Xavi's Barca look to press? In this video we take a look. And when United were on the ball, both managers were looking to affect the game right from the goal kick. And initially, Varane and Shaw would drop either side of De Gea, with Wan-Bissaka and Malacia maintaining their width. In this phase, Casemiro would be the single pivot, whilst Weghorst and Fred pushed higher up behind Rashford. And Barcelona were highly aggressive in their press, with Lewandowski often joined by Xavi, with these two men ready to press the centre-backs when the ball came live. This was backed up by Pedri, who would often look to tie up Casemiro, with Rafinha and Alba from left back pushing all the way up, then picking up the fullbacks. Because Alba had pushed high, Alonso shifted to more of a left centre-back position, with Koundé and Araujo finishing off the back three, whilst Kessié and De Jong remained as a double pivot, so that Barcelona's pressing shape looked like a 3-2-3-2. So here's a perfect example of that shape, with the back three, a double pivot, Pedri looking to tie up Casemiro, who is the single pivot, as well as Xavi and Lewandowski, both ready to press the centre-backs. And despite the prospect of Barcelona applying pressure early, United still looked to find ways to outmaneuver this pressing two so that they could begin short and slowly progress up the pitch. This was usually with Shaw starting off the goal kick, so that he and De Gea were effectively the back two. Once the ball became live, the aim was to draw Lewandowski and Xavi into the press, and Varane would often aggressively look to move into more of a midfield zone, either off to the right hand side or into this position, hoping to receive the pass from De Gea, allowing them to break the press. However, the Barcelona front two saw this coming and quickly adapted, as when Shaw played it to De Gea, Lewandowski would be sure to curve his run so that the pass was initially cut out to Luke Shaw, and then he could still press De Gea, keeping Shaw in his cover shadow, meaning that Xavi could track the movements of Varane into the midfield. So again, Barcelona are in their 3-2-3-2 shape. And when the ball came live, we see Varane move more into a midfield zone, and Shaw looking to spread out to provide De Gea an option. Lewandowski then looks to cut off the pass to Shaw, and in this instance De Gea is able to find Varane. And the press has been broken, as now Shaw can advance. This is a similar scenario, but now United aren't successful in breaking the press. This is because when the ball is live, Xavi is much more conscious of Varane's positioning, and Lewandowski curves his run more to cut out Shaw, although there was the opportunity for De Gea to find him earlier. With the front two now adapting to the build-up shape, now United could instead switch up to a wider back three. However, this was relatively easy for Barcelona to still apply pressure to the man whilst cutting off the pass out, meaning that De Gea often had no passing options. So here it's more of a back three, but De Gea doesn't take this risky pass, and with Pedri covering Casemiro, there are no short passing options. However, Ten Hag's shape was perfectly poised to deal with this, because in Weghorst he had an obvious target man who could move higher up in this first phase. This was then helped by having men around the ball in Rashford and Fred, who could look to win the second ball if Weghorst won the first aerial challenge. However, the disadvantage of the shape is that with De Jong and Kessié also starting deeper to pick up these pivots, it became much more of a 50-50 when fighting for that second ball. And in more open play situations, Barcelona took a slight step back, instead switching to a more traditional 4-2-3-1, but still looking to press extremely high, with a fairly high line as well. And one of the keys is that United still persevered with a single pivot system, with Fred and Weghorst pushing much higher up. But again, with Pedri able to easily mark Casemiro, it became extremely difficult to find Casemiro in space to have a much larger influence on the game. And this is part of the reason United couldn't hold on to the ball for too long, especially with Barcelona's high press. So here, we see that once again, with Casemiro being tied up and the rest of the midfield much higher. And in fact, this actually had disastrous consequences for United. We see Barcelona are in more of their 4-2-3-1, but crucially Casemiro is tied up, But Shaw still looks to find him despite him being under a lot of pressure. This leads to the sloppy pass that Koundé can reach, allowing Rafinha to pick the ball up wide, and his cross finds its way into the goal. So what we did see is that at times, especially with Xavi occasionally being drawn in more central, when pressing, Fernandes could look to pick up spots deeper on the right hand side to give Casemiro some assistance. With Barcelona having an extremely high line, and Sancho in these phases not hugging the touchline but coming close to Rashford, we saw Fernandes time and again have runners ahead of him that he could look to pick out with the longer ball, leading to several dangerous situations. Fernandes has a pocket of space, and both Rashford and Sancho are making runs behind the higher Barcelona line. Sancho almost gets in, but there's an outstanding interception. But much like we saw Barcelona doing when Fernandes was caught central when defending, United looked to do the same when Xavi was in more central zones. And Xavi could be caught here because either he was pressing a centre-back or recovering from an attacking phase where he pretty much operated as a central midfielder. And in these phases, United could then look to find Wan-Bissaka out wide, and they had a 2 versus 1 against Alba. So, if he pressed, Fernandes could be found behind him, but alternatively we saw Wan-Bissaka be a little more adventurous and look to overlap outside Fernandes. Here we see Xavi being drawn a little more central, and now United have the 2 versus 1 against Alba. Wan-Bissaka draws Alba, freeing up Fernandes, and now when Alba comes to Fernandes, Wan-Bissaka can get on the end of the ball. This leads to what could have been a dangerous opportunity. In this scenario, Xavi is pressing the centre-back, so Wan-Bissaka has space. Now, Fernandes has more room to attack down the flanks, and he's found drawing out the centre-back. If you enjoyed this video, go check out part 1 where we focused on Barcelona in possession. But overall, this match sets up the second leg perfectly, and if this first leg is anything to go by, we're in for a treat, so hit subscribe so you don't miss next week's analysis. Both managers had strengths and weaknesses throughout, with Barca's use of Alba making them look dangerous, while Ten Hag pressed efficiently. Ten Hag should also be credited for knowing that his midfield couldn't quite compete on a technical level and proactively looking to protect the centre instead. So, like the scoreline suggests, it's hard to split these managers tactically, meaning that both earn a 7. But what do you think? Agree or disagree? Drop it down in the comments below.
I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, you might enjoy the content available on my Patreon. Not only does Patreon help to support the continued production of content, as I am a one-man team, but it also gives you early access to videos that will come on the channel. You'll also get exclusive videos, get to vote on polls, and so much more. And it's cheaper than ever, no longer having a tier system, so everyone on the Patreon gets access to all the content. So head over to patreon.com/footballmadesimple to check it out. But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.